I am Nick Shell.
I am Mario Garcia.
And together we are
the Jeep Hombres.
This is episode 1, and I've been talking about this for weeks, maybe even a month. I've been saying, hey, I've got a new series coming out on my channel. It's going to be called Jeep Buddies. And up until a couple of days ago, I never actually did my research. Yeah, that already exists. There's a guy with like 123 subscribers with Jeep Buddies as his name. So I'm gonna let him keep that. I looked at Jeep Brothers, that's already taken. And then just a couple days ago, I messaged him, I was like, Jeep Hombres?
Yeah.
And you might think, why? This isn't in Spanish. But as we're about to talk about how we know each other, we are, for what it's worth, we are both of Spanish descent. Mm-hmm. So I just used the Spanish word for men. If it was going to be Spanish for buddies, what would it be?
Amigos?
Oh,
Jeep
yeah.
Amigos?
I think I looked that up though, and it was already taken.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
So we're stuck with Jeep men, right?
Yeah, Jeep Hombres, why not?
But Spanish is your first language, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So I would never know that from talking to you, but
or looking at me.
So this is the origin story. This is important that you know how we know each other, how this came to be. So this was like probably 6 weeks ago. It was the very end of March.
Yep.
And that was the weekend where my mom was in town helping watch the kids, and we were eating dinner, and she pulled up her phone and showed me on Facebook. She's like, because she knew the budget of what I could afford for a car, and she knew that I'd been driving the same car for 13 years. It was time. She knew that certain cars I told her that I wanted, but she'd been hearing me talk about Jeep Wrangler forever. But I kind of stopped talking about it because it just was still out of the price range for what I could afford. And she said, well, here's one. Would this work for you? And I was like, that's the price? That is an amazing price on that. And so that was already going on. It's like, oh, maybe I should get this. And it was through a personal seller. It wasn't through a dealership. So that's what made it more complicated. I'm like, well, I'd have to drop down there. We'd have to get it. There's a lot more, involvement on that. So that was like Friday night. Saturday morning, we decided to go for brunch. So my wife, my kids, and my mom, we go to brunch, and as we're eating, I'm just totally in like, I want that Jeep. That's all I was thinking about the whole time. And so everybody was getting set up with their food, and I was hearing talk about cars. And I never heard the word Jeep, I promise you, I never heard the word Jeep. But I had seen a Jeep when we were pulling in. When I was parking, I parked like right in front of this red Jeep over here. And so as I keep hearing people talk about, these two guys talking about cars, as we were getting ready to leave, I just turned around and said, is that your Jeep back there?
Yep.
And it was. And I thought it only makes sense that a guy that cares that much about cars is going to be the guy that's driving the Jeep out there. And so I told him the story how, I was heavily considering a Jeep. And I was like, here's what's funny. I've never driven a Jeep. So I've never owned one, I've never driven one, I've only been a passenger one like twice in my life at that point. Mm-hmm. But I knew in my mind, in my heart, I need this Jeep. So thanks to Mario being cool about it, him and his friend let me check out the Jeep. We went out to the parking lot, sat in it, looked at it, had my wife check it out because, that's part of it. I have to sell her on it too, not that she needed to be sold on it. And the kids, they love it. So basically we got to kind of experience your Jeep.
Yep.
Because what's crazy is I never test drove this. Mm-hmm. So, because if you've seen other episodes, you know that what happened was my parents drove 3 hours, and they live about 3 hours from me. They drove another 3 hours away to go pick this up and pay for it. So it's funny though, no test drive.
Yeah.
I just knew all those years I wanted one. I'm like, however this thing works out, I'm gonna like it, and I was right. So it was so funny though. So thanks to Mario, he was actually a part of this process, a part of the story. Like, will you take credit for that?
Sure. I mean, I'll receive that.
Because you need to, because maybe it's just where we are in Tennessee that people are friendly or whatever. I don't know that just anywhere you could turn around inside a restaurant and say, hey, can I go see your Jeep? And maybe that is normal. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But thanks to you, you really helped carry this story along. And for me too, as I was questioning, that weekend, should I get the Jeep? Should I? It was like, but why would I have met Mario? Why would he have had that Jeep? Why would I sit right next to them not knowing? So that really was part of the story.
Yeah.
Part of that confirmation. But then after all that, and this is part of the Hombres name. So what's funny is I'm talking to the restaurant, we're checking out the Jeep, we're out there, I don't know, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then finally your friend that was with you, he's like, hey Mario. And I was like, your name's Mario? So I've mentioned this a few times in my video before, but true story. The entire time my mother was pregnant with me, my name was Mario. The entire time. When people ask her, if you have a boy, what's it gonna be? Mario. That was my name. And you might think that seems random, but keep in mind that my mother, her mother was a first generation Mexican. So Mario makes sense in that context, not to mention also her father, first generation Italian American. So Mario worked very well, whether it was Mexican or Italian heritage, it made sense. So she was expecting someone to come out, this baby, to look like a Mario, like you're too young to Saved by the Bell, right?
Yeah, that was before me.
So there's Mario Lopez. When I think of Mario, I think of like someone that looks like Mario Lopez. I don't know, there's a certain look you have to have Mario. And the point is, I didn't have it when I was born. Mm-hmm. I was way too light. And once I came out, my parents were like, he can't be Mario.
Yeah.
So they changed my name, they created my name right then and there. Nick.
Gotcha.
So, but it was just so funny because I haven't really met any Marios in my life.
Right.
So
it's kind of like twofold right there.
Yeah.
The Jeep and then my name.
Yeah. So there you go. There's our origin story. We have many episodes to film. This is one of many. So, but it's important that we start with the beginning. So that's how we know each other. We've had the Jeeps. And what's funny is, we met each other about 6 weeks ago. This is only the third time we've seen each other in person.
Yep.
But that's how cool of a guy Mario is, that he's like, I'm like, hey, can you drive 30 minutes over to my house for a couple hours to shoot like a dozen videos? Okay.
Yeah, I'm down.
So stay tuned. We got more where that came from. We are Jeep Hombres.